Hello and welcome to another episode of Devs on Tape. Again, from the States in Denver, we are recording at the Kscope23. And ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very special guest in our podcast. Our guest is part of the Apex team as an architect, and he's working for Oracle, obviously. And we are talking about his invention back in the days, the universal theme. We also will talk about the starting of being a web developer in the early 2000s. And today we have the privilege of exploring the transformation and growth that led him to this current position and the leader of design and special projects for Oracle Apex. We have many things to talk about. Our guest today is Shakeeb Rahman. Hi, Shakeeb.
Hi, Kai. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, I'm very glad that we found a spot on your time schedule that we can talk about many interesting stuffs today. So maybe you can introduce yourself to our listeners who might not know you. I don't think there are any, but maybe you can just add more information to that.
Absolutely. So hi, everybody listening. My name is Shakeeb Rahman, and I'm an architect on the Oracle Apex development team. I've been with Oracle for quite some time now, joining the Apex team in 2009 under Mike Kichwa. I was actually hired for like a special project at the time. And today I look after the design and user experience of Apex, but I also work on a lot of special projects where we use Apex on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. So you are always talking about, like in your talks and in the intro, there are always the special projects, right? So it's kind of a mystery what you're doing in there. Can you talk more about what are those special projects you're working on?
Sure, yeah. It may sound like a mystery, right? What are these things? There's a lot of use of Apex within Oracle. And one of the things that I look after is using Apex to build solutions that we ourselves need. So for example, one of the projects that I look after is something called ARIA People. Mm-hmm. It's the employee directory at Oracle. We sort of talked about it a lot at conferences, and it's an application that our team has sort of built. In fact, it's predated my career at Oracle by many years. It's probably it is the most popular Apex applications, and it's probably one of the most relatable Apex applications because it's really an employee directory. It's a really nice, easy way to get in, get out, and it's an application that I'm very proud of at Oracle.
So you're still working on that, or you just gave it to your team you're leading?
Well, I think it's definitely a team effort. Everything we really do, I think it's hard to say hey, I'm the only one that worked on this thing. So it's definitely a team effort. We have a team that works on special projects, right?
Okay.
I consider them part of the Apex team. So the Apex team as a whole is quite a diverse team at Oracle. Diverse in many ways. We are geographically dispersed quite a lot. So, you're from Germany here. We have quite a few members in Germany, and across Europe, across in India, in the UAE, in South America, in Mexico, in Canada, and of course I disperse even across the United States. And within this geographically dispersed team of 90 plus people that build Apex, we have folks that focus primarily on product development of the Apex product. There are folks that develop a focus on the development of the Apex and Autonomous Database Service and Apex and OCI. And there's a few folks that focus specifically on internal development improvements for our team, and just like that, there's also folks that focus on special projects. And some of these projects, they go from internal facing applications to external facing applications. For example, we recently launched forums, which we can get into a little bit later. We launched this internal surveys service. We have I look after Live SQL and DevGem and Ask Tom and many other Apex applications.
So that was quite a journey you walked, right? So I think the first time we've met was at Kscope Chicago in 2016, and back in the days you were just into it don't get me wrong, I don't know if it was the introduction of the universal theme in Apex 5, if it's on the same.
It's a little bit. It's 1 year later. So Universal Theme came out in 2015. I remember the date. It was April 15th, 2015. I know this because it was tax day in the United States.
Okay.
And that was the day that we released Apex 5. Made it generally available for everybody. and that was the release of the initial universal theme.
And this was basically my second year in the business with Oracle Apex, and I started with Apex 4.2. Like dynamic actions were at my daily work, right? And then the universal theme came, and you were talking about that, like on every single conference I was attending, like on premises or remotely, and I saw your beautiful presentations, and I saw it in the presentation. I was talking to my colleagues, and I said, I want to do presentations like this, because like there were animations that are
right. I remember exactly what you're talking about. Oh my God.
And it was so great that like every single colorful leaf was leading to one topic of universal theme. And I think I saw this presentation like 50 times, and I was still impressed how much love you put in there. So it was pixel perfect. It was like perfectly timed with your presentation, and I knew that the universal theme will be great, and it will get even better because you are leading that, right? So no, I don't want to put more honey about it. I don't know if it's really.
Thanks for buttering me up, right?
that's the right phrase, yeah. But yeah, universal theme is now the main component, I would say, for an Apex application. But always when we were talking to customers and people around us, what's the thing of Apex? Why should you use Apex to build applications? Then we say, you don't have to write all the boilerplate code to get an application up and running before you get actually to the business logic or the core of what you want to solve, the problem, right? And with the universal theme, you get a responsive, good-looking, and very flexible theme that you don't have to care about before you're starting an application. You just say, start with an Apex application, use universal theme. It should look like this. You put some things on the color picker, and then it's going good. And you were always talking about universal theme, and everything in Apex should be crisp.
That
was the
phrase.
Remember
that term. That's right. Yeah,
every time it has to be
I like
crisp.
to say that. Yeah.
So what leads you to? Obviously, universal theme was planned, right? You needed to do that. I think it was not your idea, right?
Well,
to do some new UI.
It's an interesting genesis of the universal theme, and I think it became quite clear as we were working on many releases of Apex. So just to take a step back a bit, right? I joined the Apex team in 2009, but really my first contributions to Apex came in some of the early themes that were shipped with Apex. So I worked on a few themes. They were shipped with Apex 4, I believe, even. Mm-hmm. And then we had new themes in Apex 4.1, right? We started introducing new numbers. So every time there was a new theme, there was a new number. It's like theme 20, theme 21, theme 22, mm-hmm. theme 23, 24, 25 was a responsive theme that came out in Apex 4.2. So every release of Apex, we had this new theme. And what do we tell developers? Like, hey, Mr. Developer, go and refresh, actually go and update your application, change your theme, and pretty much redo the entire thing. Yeah. Right? It was quite a process, especially going to this responsive theme. And we thought that's just not a sustainable model. Mm-hmm. We can't ask our customers to go and redo their entire apps every single time. So we thought, well, we have to have a modern theme, a modern user interface framework that will stand the test of time, mm-hmm. and something that we can update and refresh with every release of Apex and make it better and better and better without having developers to incur the cost of updating their applications or really rewriting those applications.
Yeah, I'm guessing that this is some kind of hard work to find one single solution that fits everyone. Because I remember I like theme 28, I think.
Was 28?
I don't know.
Maybe 21.
21, I think. I don't know.
There was a really popular theme that everybody used for their applications, right?
Yeah, and they're all using the theme they want to use for their applications, and then you have to maintain each and one of them.
Oh yeah,
right.
All new markup. Every single theme has different markup, different style sheets, different set of images.
Yeah, and they're manipulating the stuff, and then you try to pull everything on one card, right? You just say, I have to create a theme that is good for everyone. Everyone needs to do that, and they don't say, no, I want to stay at 21, right, or whatever theme. Correct. So I guess this is a very hard decision to say.
It was and again, like it was so difficult to come up with this concept of this general purpose theme. What do you make it look like, right?
Yeah.
Like in a way, it's sort of abstracting everything that we do in Apex. Everything that we do in Apex is we have generic components that you can use to build any kind of application, right? And now you're looking at the UI layer of this, which is really the first impression that people have about these applications. And the UI layer really dictates how people perceive the application, how people will use the application, what kind of complex capabilities you can add to that application. If the UI layer can't support it, then your application can't have that functionality. So it was quite an interesting way of looking at how do we put together a general purpose theme that can be customized, right? And it really, I would like to say, like, universal theme has a few components that made it what it is. A few key features. So if I take an analogy of a tripod, right? There's like 3 legs of a tripod that really give it stability and allow it to actually function as a tripod. Maybe for those 3 things for a universal theme would be the fact that, one, it's responsive, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to work on different screen sizes, different things. The other one is that it's versatile. So you can actually do a lot of different things with universal theme. It should be versatile enough that you can use it to build any kind of application. But that alone is not enough. It has to be responsive, versatile, and finally customizable.
Yeah.
So we can't just have a color scheme. Like in our previous themes in Apex, we would have like, oh, here's a red theme or here's a blue theme. The default look and feel, the default color theme, a color scheme for universal theme is blue, right? It's the most sort of, the color that's the most neutral for business applications. But the whole point was you can customize this. And that led us to building new technologies like Theme Roller, which for the first time ever until that point, live in your application, you can go and pick a color, pick different parts of your application and change it on the fly. And that was like a mind-blowing moment.
Yeah, I remember a time when I approached 2 customers and they were asking, should we go to universal theme or even should we use Apex? And if you like live create an application and then you change the color scheme to their corporate colors and they say, oh, it's looking already like an application we should use or we have in our intranet, right?
Right.
And that was one of the key factor, I think. So you started to make that. My first thoughts when I saw universal theme was, all right, Bootstrap too, because I looked into the code, like the naming of the classes. Correct. It was basically, right? So now it's a standard. Almost every front-end framework is using classes like this, and you add classes to elements and changes something. And I said, okay, this is just Bootstrap. Even the coloring is almost that. Now I know what journey you were going on to. It was not just using kind of Bootstrap for Apex.
So just about Bootstrap as well, right? I did look at Bootstrap. Bootstrap was very popular. In fact, at the time, like I think it was called Twitter Bootstrap, and somebody else actually built it. I even talked to the guy that built Bootstrap. But really, the only thing that in universal that's inspired from Bootstrap, is the grid system.
Yeah,
that was primarily from the Bootstrap style of class names and the structure, the 12-column fixed grid, right? Everything else, we looked at Bootstrap as an inspiration to see like, hey, this is a general purpose framework. Everybody's building blogs and websites and applications on it, but we couldn't tie it to a specific library, right? No. We had to build that in-house because we wanted to have that full control over the user experience. And that, again, goes back to, we have all these unique sort of components in Apex, right? We have interactive reports, right? We have classic reports, we have lists, we have different types of navigation menus, there's tabs, there's different types of regions, charts, and all of these things need to sort of feel cohesive, need to be built in a way that's cohesive when you build an application. So look at all the different baseline components, there's buttons, like links, all these things, and then have a layer of customization on top of that, which is more than just colors even, right? So ThemeLore gave us the colors, but then, hey, you have a list, you have a media list, or you have a set of cards, but not everybody wants the same type of cards. So we had this other innovation in Apex 5, which was called template options. So it's a really fancy way of saying, we're gonna add additional classes, and that's gonna change the way that we're gonna style this component, right? So what we did was we had template options for all of our components in universal theme, all the template-driven components. So now you could check a checkbox. or
Yeah.
select an item from a select list, and it would change the appearance
Like
of that
small,
item.
medium, large, X large, and then stretch item, remove padding, and so on. This is what
Absolutely,
it's,
yeah. But we also had some things like styling, right? Like, oh, here's cards. Like, you want a featured card, a block card, a compact card, whatever. Like, how many lines of text do you have, and all these things that kind of made it more versatile. So now the same component, the same underlying Apex component, the same markup could be used in many, many, many different ways to the user.
So there's a plugin structure in Apex which provides people to contribute. Do you plan? This is just coming out of my mind right now. Are you planning to contribute visual representation of items and regions as a contribution from the members? Like, I have an item and I have template components, and I saw it earlier in your presentation that the page you were creating were looking exactly like DoorDash, because you had this hero image and then you had this small image on top of that, so it looks like the Twitter heading in the profile, right? So I would never come to something like this when I create an application. I would love to have something like this to be like downloaded, put it into Apex and say, I have theme 1 for this page, or I have theme 2 for this page, and I have it like in my space and say, okay, I will have that like this because Shakeeb provided us a template option or template thing.
Right.
Are you planning to get more contributions in this?
So with the introduction of template components in Apex 23.1, I think we will start to see this. So template components, it's really a feature that Tim leads the UI development for all of Apex. This is a feature that we've been waiting for many, many, many years. Like for the longest time, we sort of had to live within the constraints of the existing templating system and the templating engine that we have. And, we enhanced it a few times over the years. Like the last big enhancement to the templating engine has been with the addition of custom positions. So now you can have any number of display positions and what they support and so on. And that was a monumental feature, architected and developed by, Vincent and Patrick and many others. And that's what led the way to have more flexibility in universal theme, but also to build this Redwood theme that we can talk about later. With template components, for the first time ever, now we're able to build a UI component in Apex. It's not tied to a lot of PL SQL. It's more tied to the HTML and the presentation of data, right? And so now we're using the plugin architecture. That means that you can have custom attributes. So let's say you have this new component you want to build, right? You want to build a restaurant application, like a food delivery application, and you want to show a block of all the cards, right? You can use our cards component, but it's fairly generic. But imagine you had a restaurant card component that was optimized just for that one use case, right? You have a cover photo, like a brand logo, the time to delivery, the ratings, the rating count, right? Like, are you the pro member? All of those things can be declarative attributes now. So when you, as a customer, want to build this application, you drag this, restaurant card component onto the screen. You pick the right attributes. They're all clearly labeled, and that's it. You have your awesome component with all the configuration options. Right?
So I heard an open mic night yesterday. Some guys were talking about something that the community will do in the future, in the next month. So there will be a template component plugin challenge.
That's right.
They told us. I have to say it like this because I'm not in this position here. But there will be a challenge where the community will be called to create exactly what you already said, right? Like create a great template component that does one job. It looks good, right? And it works like you're expecting it. And there will be a jury that will like vote for or rate it.
Right.
And then it will be, it has to be open source. It has to be published to Apex World so everyone can see it. So we give that, all the guys who are doing
It's going to be an awesome template component competition. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it, because I think for the first time, we've enabled a much larger audience of people to participate in this, right? I think there's an entire class of developer that is focused on HTML and CSS that we're not really addressing with normal plugins, right? Plugin development, plugins can be anything, but with a template component, you're really looking at a UI component perspective and how to extend Apex. So I think there's a huge future for what people will do with this.
Yeah.
It's going to be incredible.
What comes in my mind this is like what Ronnie does in the company before joining the Apex team, like this big plug-in loaded application.
Right.
And if I see all the different parts of the application, the widgets, if they would be template components from the visual part, right, and they were provided to everyone out there, this would be a very great thing for Apex, because you have like
Game changer.
Yeah, exactly. That was basically the word I was searching for. So you got all the different plugins. You have the visual representation you want to have. So I saw so many nice plugins, but on the visual part there was just one bad styled select list, which was not even matching the rest of Apex.
Correct.
And it was so massively good in the background with the PL SQL, but the visual representation was basically nothing.
Correct.
And now we are getting plugins, and we will see them, I think, after the template competition thing, that we have like kind of a store thing that you can watch through it in Apex World. So you can see whatever and each widget and plugin and template component you want to use. Just download it, put it into Apex, put a data source on it, click some attributes on it. And because it's in competition, they will really try to get really great templates out there with as many attributes as possible, so it's very flexible and you have it in sizes. I'm very looking forward to that.
It's going to be awesome. I think it's really going to open up Apex a lot more for people to build out UI components and having them be reusable, right? Yeah. The architecture is all the same. People will be very familiar with it from a plugin perspective, but it's going to be so much easier to build these things out, and it's gonna be awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, you are going to present it at every single conference, right? So Ronnie was talking about that Apex Connect, and they know and they get a feeling how big this is. But with the competition, we give it a head start and just accelerate that to
let's get the best and brightest folks on it, right? The people that really understand Apex and have them go nuts. I think we have sort of unlocked this potential. And what I see coming from this is, there's a lot of websites right now where you can sort of look at like Preact component, React components, or other type of UI components out there, right? And now we're sort of bringing that to Apex. Even if you were just to take like, here's the top like React components out there, how could we surface this in Apex, right? It's the same UI component, same UI visualization, but now in a way that's wrappered in all the Apex, plugin goodness. So an Apex developer, all they have to do is just drag and drop it, select some attributes, do the thing that they're used to doing, building Apex apps in a low-code declarative fashion, and they get this awesome result at the end of the day. So
I'm looking forward to that and give it a head start and see how this community will grow and contribute to that. So we already talked about the universal theme and everything what's happening right now, but let's take a step back. So you're now an Oracle architect, right? So we can talk about that in a few minutes, but let's see at the beginning of your career. What did you do? How did you start with web development? How did it all start before getting into Oracle?
That's a really good question. And it's going to take some time to kind of go back in memory lane a bit.
Definitely, please.
It all started like I had my first computer way back, I don't know, 99, something like that, I guess. So it wasn't, it's been a while. So I was just fascinated by computers, right? And I just spent every waking hour on the computer doing whatever I could, like a lot of other like kids, I guess, getting a new toy. And so with the web, like one thing that I just gravitated towards was really good UI, really good design. And for a long time, I always had a Windows computer growing up. And I always looked at the Macs and the design of Mac. And I always found that very appealing. It was very aesthetically well designed. And so in the early 2000s, I had this website called aquaxp.com. And actually, it's a funny story. Tim, who leads UX design, Tim Kimbrell, he and I knew each other, we've known each other for 20 plus years. And he had the competitor website, Aquasoft.
Okay.
And the mission of both of these websites was to make your Windows XP computer, Windows XP machine, look like a Mac.
Oh, it could be that I was even on those websites because I was exactly trying to do that back in the days.
Yeah, so people would have like little dock applications. The start menu would move to the top.
Yeah,
with all these little applications to like the Windows theme styles and so on. So that's sort of where this whole thing started, right? Like my interest in design came from looking at Apple and their design, like the stuff that they were able to do. And I look at Windows applications, and somehow I didn't find I didn't think they're as well designed. So we built this website, I built this website called Aqua XP, and I remember talking to somebody on the internet. This is when forums were really big, and I was talking to somebody, and I found some people to help me work on it. And at the time, I was using Dreamweaver. I didn't really understand HTML, but someone told me that, hey, your HTML, you don't have to use Dreamweaver for this. You can actually write the HTML. It'd be so much cleaner and easier and whatever. So I started looking into writing HTML and writing CSS and customizing things, and it sort of naturally grew from there. From building websites, I would have a number of websites where I use like Google AdSense to generate a couple of dollars here and there as like a high school student or whatever. So since then, I've sort of had this personal interest. And so when I went to college, I didn't actually study web design or web development because I thought like, hey, I already know those skills, or I can learn that on my own time. So when I went to college, I studied systems engineering.
Okay.
And before I got to college, there was a competition that Oracle had. So in the United States, a lot of kids, they will participate in extracurricular activities. So I was never really much of a sports person, or I didn't really have so many extracurriculars. I was really like a geek, just sitting at home with a computer.
Yeah.
But one thing I could do was build websites. So there was a website building competition sponsored by Oracle called ThinkQuest.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, of me and a few other buddies, like we got together and I said, hey, I can design the website. You guys can take care of all the content, all the scientific research, and all the hard stuff. I'll do the website. So we built this website. It was called the Nth Dimension. It was all about the string theory, but unifying the concepts of general relativity, of which is for really, really massive objects, to quantum mechanics and quantum physics, which are for super tiny, minuscule atomic particles. And how do you join the two together? There's a thing called string theory. And so we built this website around string theory. We submitted to the competition, and we won in the competition. So we didn't win first place or second place. I think we won like third place. But even then, we won third place. We got to go to Open World at the time. This is like 2005.
Awesome. Yeah.
I think this is ThinkQuest Live 2005. And that was really my first, exposure to Oracle, right? To the Oracle as the company. I've always sort of heard of Oracle in some distant regard, right? Oracle is not a consumer company, right? They're a B2B company. Yeah. But this competition, which was to help me get into college, and my college application, really gave me a career at Oracle, which is pretty incredible to think about it now.
So this is encouraging our listeners, even if they don't know where to go. So just go to competitions, learn new companies.
It all started from a competition.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It was a website building. Now it could be template component. You never know.
So to be clear, you don't have to make a website about string theory, because this is very geeky and very nerdy. I think if you're very into these topics, but I think there are competitions out there where you can reach out. Even those the template component challenge, I think this is another competition where you can reach out to many
a bit more
companies.
niche, but absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's how I really got into Oracle. I attended Open World as a student, and they had some cool activities there. And I still work with people today on the Apex team that I've seen from Oracle at the time when I was there as a student at that competition. So anyway, competition's done. Oracle sends an email out to some of the winners saying, hey, we have internships available for the winners of these competitions to review and vet the websites that people submitted and created. So I applied for the internship. It was very close to where I lived, which is, near Reston. And there's an Oracle office over there. So I got the internship. I just told them, hey, I can't work full time. Can I have fewer hours? So I worked there for I don't know, it's supposed to be a 2-month internship. I probably worked for like 3-4 months. They liked my work, and then they extended my contract. So I turned into a contractor for the next, 2.5 years as I was going through college. So I remember I would finish up my classes and I would go into the office, like 2 days a week. And the other days I would come in at like 6 p.m. and leave at like 9 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It was awesome.
good money, right?
It was pretty good money for like an intern.
Yeah.
I was super happy. And I was at a computer. I was like learning web development and stuff. And that was my first exposure to Apex as well during that time when I was a contractor. So even today, for example, I Alan Sitterson, Vlad, David Bliss, many others on the Apex team, they were on the Oracle Education Foundation team, and I've worked with them during my contracting days at Oracle.
Yeah, wow. Awesome. So you started you call it web developer at Oracle in 2006, right?
That's right.
You stayed there two almost 3 years, and then there's a break, right?
That's
Is
right.
Is it a real break, or is it just doing something?
It's an interesting break. So my contract was coming to an end, and I had to find a place to go. I was about to graduate college. This is 2009, and I interviewed with the Apex team.
Okay.
So I interviewed with Mike Hitchwa and Mark and Joel. I believe Patrick was just hired recently, so Patrick was in Reston as well. I believe Jason Straub was there. So there's a handful of people from the Apex team in Reston, and I go up to the 8th floor. That's where Mike's office was. Like, there's a conference room in the back. I kind of meet with the team, talked about what I could do. I remember talking to Mike, and he kind of said, like, hey, so show me what you've done with Apex. And I was working on this app called think.com at the time, which was part of the Education Foundation. But anyway, I think they liked me, but didn't like me enough that they could hire me at the time because there was a big hiring freeze at Oracle. So I couldn't get a job at the Apex team. So that's okay. I was already contracting with another company, another web consulting company right across the street. So they gave me a full-time offer. I took that. And 3 weeks later, I have a chat with Mike. He says, hey, I really want to bring you on to help us with some special projects. Would you be interested? I said, yeah, that sounds really interesting. It's a large, and Mike sort of sold me on Oracle by saying it's a large company and there's a lot of opportunity here. And, by the way, look at the garage. There's really nice cars in the garage.
Great. Yeah, that's the way to get people, right? So you were like 7 months in a different company, but already like 3 weeks after you started at the company, you were already
That's right. Oracle, that's right. Yeah, it was an interesting time. Like, this is my first full-time job out of college. I'm at this company, and 2 weeks into it, I already know that I'm going to be leaving to this other thing when Oracle has their hiring freeze lifted. They have an open headcount. So I still enjoyed working at this company. I was the first engineering hire at this company called Perfect Sense Digital, which is now the creators of Brightspot, the popular CMS system. But yeah, then I joined Oracle full-time in November 2009, and I worked on the Oracle Store project for several months, making sure the UI of that, really focusing on the UI of that application. But I also worked a lot with Mike on some of the Apex 4 UI things here and there, and that's how I started getting into themes. And then come Kscope in, I believe, June 2010. It was in Washington, D.C., which is local
just
to
around
me.
the corner, right?
Right. And that's when, I was already working with Mark on some themes and so on. And we thought it'd be kind of nice to have a co-presentation together. So Mark and I did a presentation together. This is my first ever presentation from Oracle at a public conference. And I walked people through how to customize their theme using Photoshop and updating all the images and the CSS to have a new look and feel.
Yeah.
And that was 2010 June.
So you were all in UI stuff, and you started like what you said, but now you're an architect. So an architect does more than just UI work, right? So you're.
Oh yeah.
So what changed between when we learned to know each other, when you just created the universal theme, until now? What happened in between?
So I think that my career sort of changed from UI development and getting into the weeds of the UI to applying that UI, right? So we built this universal theme, and I still worked on it. Like, that was really my primary area of development. But there's a lot of things that we do on the Apex team, and a lot of projects that Mike, sort of gets asked to work on or signs us up for, right? So I'll get thrown into projects here, and they're like, hey, there's this internal application. We should really update the UI of this thing. Oh, there's this application that we want to build. Let's go and work on that. Hey, Shakeeb, can you look at the UI of this application? So as we started to go and build more and more of these applications or update the UI of these things. For example, I worked on the Ask Tom refresh of the UI. This is several years ago now. But before that, it was a really, it was a very classic application.
I remember that, yeah.
And then we updated it to universal theme and had some custom things here and there. And so progressively, over time, I started working more on special projects and kind of, building Apex applications rather than building the UI capabilities for Apex. And then we also grew our team over the years. So we were able to get really talented people. Like, there's no way I would be able to do what I'm doing now if I didn't have somebody like Tim that's really taking on a lot of my development responsibilities from an actual, universal theme development, the builder UI development, and many other special project development. So that allowed me to use my time to work on these other strategic projects to Oracle. And I think that really led its way to the pandemic, when Apex was really, a big fat spotlight was shown on Apex.
That was one special project I wanted to talk about, because you said you're working on this and that, and however, whichever project Mark is signing up for, there was one big project you were working on, right? So the COVID applications for the United States, I think. There was kind of Larry Ellison did a couple of talks to a guy, and was promising that we will do it for a very cheap price, a very quick at most.
Oh boy, yep.
Right.
So let me tell you a little bit of backstory on this.
Yeah, please.
So let's rewind the clock to the pandemic, right? Like this is for us, like really the pandemic really hit when the lockdown started, and I believe this happened in the United States in mid-March. So I remember actually going into the office in like March, I don't know, like mid-March, early March, and we're talking about the pandemic. And we're like, is this a real thing? We're not really sure. Maybe there was a conference coming up in the UK. I was like, yeah, maybe I can go. I don't know. It seems kind of sketchy, right? I remember talking to Kyle on the team, and he was saying, hey, should we really be coming into the office? Like, I don't know. And I thought, maybe. Like, I'm not really sure yet, but seems to be fine. We go home that weekend. Safra sends us out. Safra, CEO of Oracle, sends an email to all Oracle employees saying all Oracle offices are closed indefinitely.
Okay.
Right? 3 days
Full
into
lockdown.
like full lockdown, 3 days into that work from home situation. This is March 18th. About like 9 p.m., I get a text message from Chris Rice, and it's sent to Joel Coleman and myself. And he says, guys, we got to hop on a Zoom soon. And that's when this whole thing started. We hopped on the Zoom call. Mike is already on there. There's a few other folks on, and we had just learned that, Oracle had promised the U.S. government that we would build a system to track the efficacy of early stage COVID-19 treatments, and that we would have the system live, by the end of the weekend or in a couple of days. And
Yes.
of course, we were going to build it all in Apex.
Yeah, of course. There's no technology left that you could do use for such a short deadline, right?
Yep.
And then you started developing it, right? So I remember that they said that you were working closely to Larry for the UI, or was it just Mike, and Mike was reporting to Larry to get this design up and running?
Oh, well, that was an interesting time. So, we got on the call at 9 p.m. The first thing we do, just like any other Apex developer, I'm sure if I talked to you together, we would say, hey, we want to build an app. What's the first thing you do? You probably go to Kscope, you put together a data model,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I have screenshots of like, hey, let's do a Kscope. Let's look up these terms. We were on, we had a few scientists on the call. I believe like Andy Mendelsohn was on the call as well, right? And Juan Loaiza. And these are executives, and I'm sharing my screen just because, I just happen to have my screen up and like, hey, let's go build a data model really quick. Let's start building these apps. And in a couple of days, we had an app ready to share. And, we hop on a call. I've never been on a Larry call in my life. And Mike, wants me to join the call as well. We join and we give an update. Larry turns to Mike and says, okay, Mike, can you share the app that you've built? And Mike says, sure, Larry. I'm going to pass it on to Shakeeb to demo the application.
Oh, I can just imagine how you felt in this moment.
Yeah, it was an interesting moment. Probably the best time I've ever been put on the spot like that.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, I said, all right. And we walked through the application. And, Larry had some good feedback for us. And, at that moment, you sort of disregard for the moment that, this is the executive leadership of Oracle, right? And it's not just Larry on the call. It's really the entire executive leadership team. And I've just take a step back. I've never seen an effort like this where the entire company has come together towards a singular purpose, right? I think the pandemic really impacted all of us, and everyone was under lockdown. And we're trying to see what can we do to help in this situation? And I think the Oracle leadership team really understood that. And that's why they pushed us to say, how can we use our technology for good? How can we use, the capability, the staff that we have, the products and technology that we have to help in this fight against this pandemic? And one thing that I think Oracle does really good is understand data, make sense of data, right? Report on that data so that others can make better decisions. And that's really what all we were building, right? We're collecting, like, the application is quite simple. It's basically a simple survey application that any doctor could sign up for, and they may be giving early stage COVID-19 treatment for their patients. And we want to know, is that early stage treatment going to work or not? Right? So it's a simple screen. It's like, hey, does your patient feel better, worse, or the same as they did yesterday? Right?
I mean, if I compare this at the beginning of developing this application, like you have one POC, for example, in the end of a weekend, and I compare that to Germany. So we had one application that was used to track each other, right? So the devices were communicating.
Like contact
Bluetooth,
tracing.
Exactly. And this was a conglomerate between Telecom, SAP, and I think there were a couple of others. And they used so much time, and they used millions of money just to create the app and to push it out in the store, and there were errors in that, and there were problems. And I said, okay, you are working on Apex applications to make something else regarding COVID happen in the US, but this should have been the point where someone else says, we can do that with Apex. Of course, you need what's coming right now, like PWA stuff, and then you need an API from the phone itself, right?
Sure.
So, but if it's just the visual part, like an application that is accessible where you can enter your data in, maybe a contact book.
Honestly, it's no different than any other application that any of our customers have ever built, right? We're basically building a form to collect data that's going to go into an Oracle database. At the end of it, that's all this is. And we've done these applications for years and years and years. And all of our customers have done them. And they've built mission critical systems across the globe. So when we got this call to build this app, it was no big, like it wasn't as like this monumental task, right? We already had like the Apex application development capabilities. Like we were confident we could do this. Like there was not a moment of doubt in our minds that can we deliver this or not, right? The technology was there. There was not a moment of doubt that do we have a cloud? Do we have infrastructure to deploy this application? Like this is very sensitive health, data, right? Health, private information. It has to be treated with very, very strict security controls. So, and the Oracle database as the underlying like sort of platform for these applications, it's used across the globe in these capacities every day. So we had a technology footprint. It was just a matter of getting the folks together, understand the requirements, and building an application, which is which is the same thing that happens at every single customer site. So our customer in this case just happens to be the U.S. government, and the project manager for this project happens to be Larry Ellison.
Yeah, right? And I think this leads Larry to the conclusion or to the idea that Apex is the best solution, right? So I heard many stories about how he proceeded and asked other teams why they're not able to be that fast, right?
So what happened was we had a number of these design review meetings, and in one of the meetings there was a lot of UI feedback, right? And normally you would pause, you'd take some notes, and you'd say, all right, we'll come back in a week or two and we'll action the feedback and then we can review again. Instead, what we did was we said, let's make these changes live. So we started making these changes, and I've said the story again and again, and I love telling the story because it's the same story that happens at customer sites with normal Apex developers every single day. You sit with your customer, you ask them, what do you want to do? Do you want to say this? Or do you want to move it around here? And so if you asked like an executive, hey, can I have 3 hours of your time to do a demo of my product? Hell no, you're not going to get that time. But if you sit there and say, hey, do you want to work on this application together? And whatever you say, we can make it happen right now in real time. And that's exactly what happened. So for 3 hours, we did this back and forth. And I think that, and it wasn't just us working together with Larry and other professionals there. It was the entire executive leadership team that witnessed this happening. And I think that was a pivotal moment for Apex and the way that Oracle looks at Apex today. That was really the start. And that was just in the early days. We then went on to build a lot of other pandemic apps, and probably the most famous one being vSafe, which has been used by nearly 11 million people and has reported 159 something million patient-reported outcomes. And that application, the success of that application has really led to a lot more investment in Apex, a lot more attention paid to Apex, and Apex now being used as the strategic tool to build applications across the Oracle industries and for the Oracle, Cerner acquisition.
Yeah. So Larry is heavily investing in Apex right now. So we see almost in any part of the community people joining you guys in the development team, right? So you got Vincent back in the days, the Menno joined your team. Ronnie was
rock stars.
Yeah, exactly. They are coming into your development team. So we don't have the possibility to show a safe harbor statement right now. I mean, everything you are saying here doesn't...
Big fat safe harbor.
Exactly. We just print it on a screen or something. But if you are visiting or if you are looking into the future of Apex, like maybe 10 years, 15 years, what would be the leading aspect for you? What points to follow, right? So what do you think Apex will become in the next 10 to 15 years?
Wow. That's a tough question to answer. My event horizon is not 10, 15 years.
Let's stick to 5
Oracle.
years.
5 years is more reasonable.
Yeah.
I feel like Apex has a lot of challenges ahead, and I feel like we're going to address them head on and as best we can, as we've always done. I think what really changed now more than anything is that I believe Oracle has seen what it has in Apex and is acting on it, right? For the vast majority of our customers and our partners in the Apex community, they've always sort of seen this, sort of say like quote unquote magic of Apex and what it can sort of do to their companies and their organizations and their application development processes. Oracle now gets it, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot more investment in Apex, and that's why our team has been growing, right? And like the Vincents and Mennos and Ronnies and others, right? These are individuals that are supremely talented, and in order to move at the pace that we need to move, we need to have this caliber of talent, and this applies to everybody on the Apex team. I think we've been really fortunate to assemble a team of just incredible rock stars that are so humble and down to earth, and that's part of the reason why we love coming to these conferences and talking to customers, right? Because really, it sort of gives us a lot of energy and drive. So where I was going with this whole thing is, in the next 5 years, the next few years, you're going to see Apex tackle bigger and bigger problems. And something that you've seen already for the past few years is that the cadence of our Apex releases and the capabilities that we're providing with every release is, you're seeing that accelerate. The pace of which new capabilities, new strong, like really large, fundamental changes to the Apex, functionality, it's growing at a pace that's more than ever before, and you're going to see that continue. The result of all these people joining the Apex team, the FOX acquisition, right? You're going to see that materialize in Apex, and it's going to be better for everyone, right? The capabilities that we're not trying to build applications aside and say, hey, here's like some secret sauce that we're going to use. We want to build it into the platform, right? So that all of our customers, including ourselves, because I think we are one of our biggest customers, right? We eat our own dog food. We also benefit, and we can also use our low-code approach to build applications faster. So that's where that whole continuous feedback loop sort of comes in that I mentioned.
Yeah, this was one last aspect I want to talk about. So besides what I have another question about your personal inspiration, but let's talk about the continuous feedback loop you mentioned in your presentation. So I think regarding the guys joining your team, they are all so passionate. They are so into it, and they were contributing to the product, to Apex itself, using plugins or maybe just talking to you and give you the feedback. And they wouldn't just left their companies to join Oracle if they were not so impressed by how you guys are working with us, right? So I can just imagine that, and Ronnie told us this in the last episode of Devs on Tape, or the recent one, that he was just looking up to you guys and seeing, okay, they're coming to conferences, they're talking to us, they're completely next to us, right? There's not just a team where you can send emails in to and wait
if you're
for
lucky.
something. Yeah, exactly. And then you're coming to conferences, you drink beer together with us, and we're talking about new features that the developers want to have.
Absolutely.
And that's the reason you're just asking the guys, and they say, of course I would join your team. Right, and that's the way.
Well, hold on a minute, right? First of all, I don't think we're going to people asking people to ask for, hey, join the Apex team, right? But also, I think a lot of it is that, The Apex community is something very, very special. And I think Joel was really the catalyst for this, right? The entire Apex community movement. It was always about helping others sort of succeed and do better, right? And with the Apex community, I think whenever we talk to customers, whenever we talk to people face to face, and they're using our product and they're using Apex and trying to build something cool, we learn a lot from that experience. So actually, we are the people that gain the most out of coming to these conferences. And that's why we like to come here so much, right? We love to talk to people that are using Apex on a day-to-day, real-life basis and understand like what problems do they have? What issues are they running into? What is it that they want to do? And we have the same at Oracle. Like Oracle, we have like thousands of developers at Oracle that use Apex, and we learn from a lot of them. And that's how we make the product better. Is we have the same needs, the same challenges of building applications that everybody else does. And here's an opportunity to talk to, hundreds or thousands of customers that are using your product to get that feedback direct. Like it doesn't get any better. So that's why I think like the Apex development team will continue to, have this close relationship with the community, because in a way, like we are also consumers of the product, right? We're all developers. We just happen to build Apex, but we also build a lot of Apex applications.
Yeah, and then you get the feedback, and you can improve Apex itself. And then you get this relaunch or this new generation of the IDS app to get new, not even just feedback, and this like really feature requests. So how many people are voting for one single feature you might not talk about at a conference, and you said, okay, if there's so much so many people wanting exactly this feature, we should talk about that. And I tweeted that. I think there was Vincent talking about a guy from the community. I think we can say it's Jürgen Schuster.
Of course,
he was completely changing his mind, I think, in a time frame of 1 year. And that was the moment when you told us that you will consider to put more work and energy on the IDS app and make it more transparent and change the way the process of sending in an idea will ever be commented. So if it's declined, it will be commented. If it's accepted, then you will see how this idea will proceed into the product. And I think everything together in this continuous feedback loop, which is a great name, could be from Apple, right? So like this is one feature or one thing you want to go further with, is the right thing to proceed. All right, so there's one question left, which is a little bit more personal. So obviously everyone who is creative or who is doing like visual stuff has this inspirational source. And I'm not saying that you're looking at Bootstrap and building something similar like the grid system. So is there something between next to Apple, obviously, that is inspiring you in your daily work?
That's a tough question to answer, because I get inspiration from every direction that I can. There's not like one source that I turn to for inspiration. I think a lot of the inspiration I get is from looking at what others are doing in this space, and just trying to stay on top of what's happening in the UX world and the UI world. But it's not just limited to that. It's also in the application development world. Like now, AI is becoming a big thing, and I'm looking at ways. Like I think I think pretty much every company is looking at ways of like how can we adopt AI, and so long way of answering your question. Like there's not a single point of inspiration. I definitely look at Apple and I look at some of the leaders in that like consumer space, right? But really, I also look at everything around us, all the things that like we live in a golden age right now, and I think with AI especially, we're just getting started with AI, and it's going to fundamentally change the way we interact with technology, and it's going to be a orders of magnitude more significant than the last thing that happened with like mobile devices and internet and so on, and it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be normal, right? Just like in a way, if you look at Web 2.0 or responsive design, right? For a while, those were like flashy terms, right? Or cloud. I think cloud is still something that's not completely uptaken by everybody, but give it some period of time. It's only a matter of time where it will only be cloud.
Yeah, it is cloud, right?
Like nobody will want to maintain, like you don't run your own power company to generate power for your house, right? You just pay a service and they just give it to you. You don't run your own water, a treatment plant to have water, right? So in the same way, you will just use the cloud, and AI will eventually be just one of those utilities. It will just be there.
Yeah.
And I think we will progress a lot and solve larger problems.
So I'm glad that I said something safe harbor kind of in the beginning, because if you are saying it might be going into the 5-year or 10-year or 15-year plan, then that Apex gains some AI features.
I think it's not just Apex, but I think everything will look at AI. And I think Apex will be there, and I want us to be leading in that space. Yeah. But it's clearly really hard to say. Like, I think AI right now means a lot of things to a lot of people. For a lot of people, it means ChatGPT, right? And I don't think you'll see, at least I don't see, something that simple right now, right? I think AI will fundamentally change the way that we're going to look at application development, look at solving problems as a whole. And for us on the Apex team, we're going to look at how do we continue to build a low code, how do we continue to solve problems, right?
Yeah.
And how do we do that in a way that's the easiest for someone to do? And if that's using AI, awesome. If that's using a new component or having template components people can kind of build out, awesome.
Imagine you're entering the source of an interactive grid or interactive report, and then you're not writing SQL code, because this is the part in low, which is not no code, like low code.
Correct.
And then you hit the magic stick, which is just generating SQL based on what you tell them. Like,
right.
I want to have the employees together with all the departments, and I would like to know where the salary is going up and down and whatever. And the SQL query will be prepared for you, explained, and then you save it.
This is definitely something that Oracle is looking into. There's the entire sort of a focus group looking into generative AI, and I think Oracle as a company is diving into this space, and there's going to be a lot to come.
It's based on data, right? Who should it be? Who should be better in data stuff than Oracle, right? All right. So inspiration, you got sources like everywhere. So trying to be on top of that, get everything from like newsletter list, Twitter, and so on. This is a question later on. But do you have a concrete idol? Concrete is basically the way we walk on that, right? So do you have an idol, like in a person, and it's not Johnny Ive?
No, it's not Johnny Ive, and I don't have an idol. Like I look at everyone for inspiration.
That's good. I was guessing it's Johnny Ive because of his vision of building things like visual representation. Right. All right, so we're now at the point where we could talk like days, I guess, because there happened so much. I would like to ask you some questions from our categories.
Sure.
This is a way we try to compare our guests from different areas of the world and different technical corners. So I have a couple of questions from the hypothetically category. So if you could undo one technological trend in the past, what would it be?
Oh, this is an easy one for me. I think it would be social media.
Okay.
I just feel like the proliferation of misinformation and just people being just hooked on their devices because of like the next update or whatever. I feel like that could be tamed a bit more. So that's something that I would undo.
Great. So, and the direct opposite, hypothetically, what would you like to invent and create in the future in the technological sector, what's not already existing?
It's hard to answer this because I think there's a lot of technology that exists already. I'm not sure if I would like to create anything new. I don't have like a novel idea, but what I would like to do is I would like to make technology more accessible to more people. I think we're very privileged to be, in very advanced economies, and I'd like for the rest of the world to also be able to have the same access to technology and be able to be more productive and
Great. So you were saying in the question before that you would undo social media. So the next category is in private. Would you show us your screen time on your iPhone without blushing? So are you kind of a smombie, which is like a mixture of a zombie and a smartphone zombie?
No, I am. You can totally. I will happily show the screen time on my phone. I don't think I'm addicted to my phone. I'm terrible when it comes to text messaging and using social media. I haven't used social media like Twitter even for a long time. I try not to be tethered. If I am tethered to it, it's probably checking email or something boring.
Sure. So I will talk to you if I see you at a conference, on the conference, looking at the device and not working.
Yeah.
So get back to
most likely, I'm probably looking up like slick deals.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So next question from the in private category: are you satisfied with your work-life balance?
That's a really good question, because I think a lot of people sort of like have to make a trade-off at some point, right? Like, what is work, what is life, and how do you sort of balance that? For me, I think I lean way more towards the work side, and I'm trying to address that a little bit. I definitely want to have working and being part of this team gives me a lot of purpose and satisfaction. But I definitely work more than I probably should.
Yeah, we had one guest answering this question with there is no work-life balance, but there's a work-life blending, because there are parts of the work which are so into like equals the hobby of the guest. Like
that's true. That's a good way of putting it. I think it's a work-life harmony more than anything, right? Because a lot of what I do, defines me as a person. Right, so it's hard to like if you take away my role or my what I do for work, it defines a big part of me, I guess.
Yeah. So when you're sitting on the couch in the evening and opening your laptop and creating an Apex application, even if it's for private things or just exploring, it might be
work.
It's not work, right? So this is
it's more of a hobby type of thing. It's an interest. Yeah.
And I think this is exactly what makes us good in our job, because there's no separation between those two.
It's interesting. There's a quote that that was attributed to me, and they said that this is actually Larry, and he said we were in a call some time ago, and he said, "This is the life you've chosen." And I love that quote because I can apply it to a lot of things. Like, in a way, it's not like I'm forced to do this, right? No one's forced to do that. At least I hope not. But somehow you sort of enjoy it and you make it your life.
Yeah, sure. And you get the best out of it, right? So the next question, again from in private. I like those ones. These ones. What role does your private environment play in your job? So are you surrounded by geeks? Or are you surrounded by just completely people from completely other fields?
I'm not surrounded by geeks in my day-to-day personal life. I guess I would probably say I'm probably the most geeky one of all of them, which is kind of refreshing in a way, just to kind of see how normal people work and function. But in my private environment, I think. I basically live on Zoom, right? So when you're on Zoom with me, you have a window into my house, into my life, in a way.
Yeah. So, but it's refreshing to not just talk to people who are doing the same job, right? So you can, even if you just turn off Zoom, then you can really just think of every other thing besides work, right?
That's right.
All right. Next category is consumption. How do you consume news and new knowledge? Are there newsletters, Twitters, books, maybe the Devs on Tape podcast, or magazines?
Definitely the Devs on Tape podcast, for sure. I do listen to podcasts when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
I do look at Twitter and Apple News a lot for sort of what's happening. I read BBC News quite a bit. That's my go-to places.
Yeah. So BBC News is news in general. And if you just look on tech news, new knowledge, there's a new framework coming out, or you want to learn something about AI, do you consume it, as you said, over Twitter, or do you get some newsletters from news aggregators, or reading blogs?
No, or mostly just I guess social media in a way, right? The thing that I want to undo.
Exactly.
Well, I want to undo the toxic parts of social media, right?
Okay.
I like the information sharing aspects of it. Not so much the
trolling and hating, right?
Yeah.
And false information. Yeah, so we will edit that in the hypothetically part. So you just want to cut off social media regarding those points. Okay, so last question. Also from the consumption category. How do you deal with the growing flood of information via various channels? So news information are coming more and more, like push notifications. Every single app stresses into push notifications.
I just turn it off. I turn it off. I do not have any, like very few applications have the privilege of having push notifications enabled on my phone.
Yeah, so I'm grinning right now because this was one of the major features you were just
It's a major feature and
it
should be used with caution.
Yeah.
Right. If you start seeing push notifications everywhere, which is what every single app wants to do,
Yeah.
then you're just going to be inundated with notifications. And like, how do you live with that?
I think this is one technical part which was not so clear communicated in the conference. They were all saying, okay, I have to register. Like, this is a very technical part right now.
Sure.
If you are going to register a device for push notifications at Apple's, right? Then there you have a key pair which was generated for device and for the app. And this combined enables us to send a request to Apple, and Apple will send it to your device. And everyone was saying, and I think it was in one of the talks yesterday, they said, why do I have to do it for every single device I'm using? And the answer was, yeah, because it's like you need a key for every device to do so. But I'm guessing that you need to be in control of the notifications or the applications that can send you notifications. And the only way to do so is if you can revoke that privilege from both sides. So you can just kill the key from the Apple side. Like the application can be canceled. So Apple can say, okay, this service here or this client sends too much notifications or maybe fake news or whatever. And they cut it from their end and say, okay, this client cannot send it to this device. But the device can also, besides using the application, which might not provide this unsubscribe thing, this device could go to setting,
Correct.
and unsubscribe.
That's right.
And those both, this combination of the keys is the reason why you have to do it on every single service. And this was not that clearly communicated right now. Everyone thinks it's just not good enough implemented that you have to register every single device, right?
Right. It's very much intentional. It's part of the process, right? Like I think Apple has really been the leader in this space of sort of I don't know, caring more about like the privacy and giving more users options and control over which notifications, which access they have to your device.
Yeah.
And I think it totally makes sense that you would enable it per device, even for native applications on iOS. Like you install the app once, it may be downloaded on the other device, like on your iPad or whatever, but you still need to enable push notifications on the other device as well. So it is a conscious step, and I think it is a good thing to have that. I think it makes you more it gives you control over which notifications you get, which device, and
Yeah, exactly. I once wrote an APNS system in PHP back in the days when push notifications were introduced, and I was wondering exactly about this point, why to do it like this. So every single device, and you don't have any information about the client, just the key value pair. And I was guessing interested in how this is working in Apex. This podcast might not be the right point to do so because it's too technical.
You should totally talk to Vincent about this. I'm sure he'll have a lot of opinions. One thing I would like to say, though, is, and I think something that we should improve upon in our messaging is when push notifications are appropriate and which type of push notifications are appropriate. Because right now, I think because it's so new, at least in the Apex world, that we have this ability to do push notifications, what I don't want to see is this outpouring of push notifications and every single app for every single little thing. Right, I'd like to see a more curated and more thoughtful approach of enabling this, so that the notifications that actually matter are the ones that are pushed and not everything, or at least giving users more control over it.
Yeah, exactly. So we are already over an hour right now. So not to bother our listeners, I promise we could just talk hours right now. But
it's been a fascinating conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Shakeeb. It was very interesting and very cool for me. I'm very looking forward to release this episode to our listeners, and I hope you have a great conference. And we might talk about the different stories maybe in a second part in the future.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to listening to Devs on Tape for all the other guests that you have.
Yeah.
And I'm just psyched to sort of be here in person at the conference and speaking with other customers. It's just been awesome, and being able to share a little bit about who I am with the audience. I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good day, and bye to our listeners. Thank you for listening, and be back in 2 weeks. Thank you.